Vice President, thank you for regular updates, actually, to understand the new Commission, the role they'll play in ESG, the Green New Deal. But I actually want to start on euro and the currency and what it will play in terms of reserve currency for debt issuance. How will that relationship evolve over your term as Vice President?
Good morning. Indeed, if you look at the international role of the euro, this is one of the priorities of the new European Commission. So we intend to work to strengthen the international role of the euro. Already now, euro is the world's second biggest currency in terms of both reserves and payments. And we are currently looking how we can strengthen its roles in different sectors, in payments, in international trade, euro as a reserve currency. So certainly it's going to be on our agenda during the next Commission's term.
But Vice President, what exactly needs to be done to strengthen, right, the possibility that euro can compete with the dollar as a reserve currency, and how quickly could that happen?
First of all, we see that the international role of the euro has come back a little bit during the Eurozone crisis and has not really recovered where it was in pre-crisis time. So I would say there is some lost ground to be recovered. But of course, there are a number of things we need to do in practical terms to improve the attractiveness of the euro, because at the end of the day, it's market participants who decide which currency to use. That's why we are looking, for example, in terms of payments in a pan-European instant payments system to make euro more attractive as a payments currency. In terms of reserves, we are looking, so what are obstacles in terms of reserves in international trade, why different currencies are used in trade, where we can come in more.
Yeah.
So basically we are looking from the angle how to remove some obstacles for business, because at the end of the day it's for business to choose a currency.
Vice President, you also coordinate all of the efforts of the Commission when it comes to trade and economic relations. What kind of trade can the EU offer the U.S.?
Well, we are now moving to the broader trade agenda, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I mean, in terms of trade, EU and US are each other's trading partners. From that point of view, this transatlantic trade relationship is very important, I would say, also globally. And from that point of view, the approach of EU has been very clear. We stay there for a multilateral, rules-based system. We are advocating the role of the World Trade Organization and, well, the reform of the World Trade Organization, and we're advocating to refrain from unilateral measures, be it from US or from other jurisdictions.
But do you worry that the US is weaponizing tariffs just to counter initiatives from Europe that they don't like, such as the carbon tax?
First of all, probably you meant currently more Digitax.
Digitax and both.
Well, on carbon tax, first of all, we now have our emissions trading scheme. It's already up and running, and it's there. What we are now discussing is that when we move to the carbon neutral economy, that we need to move away from free allowances in terms of emissions to energy intensive industries. But then we need to offset it by basically taxing energy intensive imports if the environmental standards in third countries are lower. But I would say this is something we are currently assessing how to best do it, how to do it in a WTO compatible way, but it's something we are more planning for 2021.
What about a carbon border tax?
Well, that's exactly the initiative, and I would say currently we are talking about a carbon border adjustment mechanism, because we'll need to see whether it's tax or customs tariffs or what is exactly the form. But the main idea is indeed you can prevent carbon leakage for energy intensive industries in two ways, either with free allowances within Europe, or if we move away from free allowances, which we intend to do because we want to move to carbon neutrality, then with this border adjustment mechanism if environmental standards in third countries are lower.
Okay, we talk a lot about ESG. I know the first time we caught up since you became vice president of the Commission, the clear focus of the Commission with also President von der Leyen was more sustainability in Europe. Are governments behind the initiative? Will they put money, or is it only talk?
Well, first of all, the European Green Deal, in a sense, is already agreed, and also the ambition, political ambition of Europe to move to carbon neutrality by 2050 is agreed. We have already binding Paris targets as regards 2030, so all these elements are already in place. Now with the European Green Deal, the next step will be coming with a climate law, basically making this goal of carbon neutrality by 2050 legally binding, because currently it's political commitment, so we want to strengthen it. And of course it will require lots of investment, and that's why last week we adopted Sustainable Europe investment plan, which is basically investment plan for European Great Deal, aiming to mobilize at least 1 trillion euros over the next decade. But we will also be accompanying this with a updated sustainable finance action plan, because still a bulk of the financing would need to come from the private sector, and for this you also need clear rules.
And you're confident that that will become legally binding?
As regards climate law, indeed, that's our ambition. As the European Commission will be coming forward with this proposal, and currently we see actually lots of momentum also among EU member states which are willing to back this ambition.